We're live! Yay! Welcome, everyone. Happy New Year. This is our first official live stream of the new year. How are you all doing? How has your year been so far? As you are joining, say hello. Let me know that you're here. Let me know how you're doing. Yay! Hello, Faye and Jim. An essence of the moon. Yay, Selena. So good to see you. Marina. Oh my gosh. So amazing. So exciting. Welcome to this live stream. Today, we're talking about the role of your intuition when it comes to guiding you on your path of understanding your purpose, of knowing who you truly are, and really stepping into your calling. So, I'm really excited for everything that we are going to be talking about today. And this is really for anyone who's on this path, whether you are in a space where you're like, I have no idea what my purpose is, or maybe you're in a place where you're like, well, I have some idea of the fact that I'm here to share my gifts. I'm here to be of service. I have discovered a spiritual connection and now I'm wanting to understand how this is meant to come forward into the world or whatever. In whatever way that this is showing up for you, this live stream is for you because I'm going to be sharing one of the most important things, which is, being in that space where we're like, okay, well, what's my next step now? Like, I've discovered this thing. I understand that I have this connection or I have these gifts or whatever, but it's like, how do I actually bring them out into the world? Or how do I show up fully as the fullest potential of my truest self? And so it's kind of like, what's my next step? I'm trying to figure it out. And so this is going to be such a powerful live stream because I'm going to share the process with you, or at least like the next step that you can take, which is really focusing on mastering and getting really connected with your true self, with your intuition. And so we're going to talk about all of the things. You'll also have the opportunity to ask your questions as we go along, as always, with regards to what I'm talking about in this live stream. And I just have to say, I've been having so much fun doing the live streams here on YouTube. I feel like, I don't know, recently I've just been doing them more, more often on here. And it's just been so fun and so good and so amazing to connect with you all live, or for those of you who watch me on the replay, watching on the replay. It's just been so much fun and I'm enjoying them so much. So thank you all for showing up and being here. Yay. Hello, Kathy, July, Violet Rose, Jesse. So excited to have you here. And thank you so much. Hi, Margaret. T Will, welcome. Hello, Hugo. Oh my gosh, so good. So good to see you all. And if you're watching me on the recording, hello from the replay. So let's jump in. There's a lot that I want to share with you today. And like I said, as we go through this, if you have any questions about what I'm sharing, if there's anything that you want to share that really resonates with you, or something that really impacted you with anything that I'm sharing, feel free to post that in the live chat that we have going on here. Hi, Erica. So good to see you here. Lucy, yay. Welcome and Happy New Year to you as well. I'm going to be going through a bunch of things, all the way from, kind of defining the role of our intuition and kind of like understanding what it is and how we can connect with it, all the way to how we might be blocking it sometimes or not listening to our intuition sometimes, to how we can begin to reconnect to it. And then at the very end, I'm also going to share something exciting that I have happening, a brand new workshop that is happening next week. So I'll share more details about the workshop at the end. So, like I said, this is for everyone here, and I would love to hear from you in the chat where you're at when it comes to the path of your purpose. If you're in a place where you're like, okay, I know, so we'll do the number thing. I find that that's so easy and simple. So, type a 1 in the chat if you're just like, I have no idea. I'm just discovering and learning and just taking it all in. If that's you, put a 1 in the chat. If you are identifying more with the fact that you're like, okay, I know that I have gifts and I know that there's something that I'm here to share, but I don't know what it is, but you're like certain in that part that it's like, I know there's something, then put a 2 in the chat. And then type a 3 in the chat if you're more on the end of like, I am growing in my alignment with my soul. I have a pretty good idea of what my purpose is and how I'm here to share it, but I still feel stuck, where I feel like there's like some sort of block from keeping me going further into the next level. So, those are the three ways that we will define it. And if you're watching on the replay and if you want to share in the comments below, feel free to share with me. And yes, you can also do the half, like 2.5. I like that, July. Thank you for sharing that. Yay. I love this. I love seeing all the ranges and all the threes and all the things. This is amazing. Okay, cool. Good. This is awesome. You guys are exactly where you're meant to be. So, one of the things that I have found for me on my journey that I feel like probably a lot of you will resonate with, let me know, is that when it comes to knowing my next step, when it comes to me kind of like, okay, what's my next step? Like, how do I continue to expand and grow in my alignment? Is that there's one of two things that happens. One is that the mind will come in, the mind steps in and is like, let's figure it out. We're going to figure it out. I'm going to logically figure it out. This makes sense. Da, 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 this happened. Like, this is, da, da, da. And like, like those memes where the person's like calculating these like crazy equations. It's like your mind starts to do that. And you're calculating and you're kind of like in the zone of like, I need to logically figure it out and what makes sense and what works and like what feels like, okay, this is like the logical next step, and try to plan out the whole thing. Or on the flip side, there's the other part of it where we go into like total, just like kind of pause and waiting for a sign, or waiting for like that very loud, like, okay, like the thunder roaring, like, okay, that's my sign that this is my next step. Or we kind of are waiting and like seeing from a spiritual perspective, okay, what's the spiritual guidance that's going to come through? I haven't had a spiritual guidance that came in, so I'm just going to wait, and I'm going to keep waiting, and I keep waiting, and it feels like I keep waiting, and it feels like there's never a direct like, this is what you need to do, or this is what your next step is. And so you keep waiting to receive that next step, and because you haven't received it yet, it just feels like you're waiting on the sidelines for a long, long time. And you're like, whatever, I'll just wait for my sign, or I'll just wait until it becomes more clear. And the thing is that neither of those ways are wrong, by the way. It's just that sometimes they're a bit extreme and can like pull us into two different directions. And the thing that I found is that when we meet in the middle, that is where the next step emerges pretty quickly, pretty clearly, and where it feels doable to take that next step. Because how many times have you felt like the next step just seems like out of reach? Like, I'm not ready for that. Like, that's just too extreme, or that's just too crazy. Like, I need baby steps, or I need to like wait a bit until I feel more ready. Or maybe it just feels like fear is there and really blocking you from actually taking that next step. And so when we are in the middle, which I'll share what that is in a second, when we're in the middle, the fear, even though it still might be there, you might still feel anxious, you might still feel uncertain, but the alignment and the clarity and the connection that you feel when you meet in the middle, that's how we overcome that fear. And that's how we actually start to take that next step. And that's how we start to move forward. So it's not either one. It's not like I'm waiting for that big sign and that big guidance to be like, this is the thing. And then having to really work through the fears and work through the thing to take the next step. And it's also not completely the logical side that's planning and thinking and calculating and like what is safe to do. It's somewhere in the middle. Okay. And the thing that's in the middle, what's in the center, is our intuition. It's the connection to yourself, to your soul, and the connection to the divine, which for me, that's God. But for, it could be source energy, could be the divine, could be the universe, like whatever it is for you. But like that bigger energy, that bigger divine presence that we all feel, it's between you and that divine presence. And when you connect with that, when you meet in the center and meet in the middle, that's where the magic happens. And that's where the clarity comes in. And that's where the truth really starts to pour through, because it's like I said, that connection is between you and the divine. And the angels and our guides and all the beautiful divine beings that are around us, our ancestors, the ascended masters, like all the amazing beings that are here to support us, they are here as like the guides along the way. Like they show us the quickest way, or they help to like bring opportunities. They help us to see things that we don't see, but they're not the ones who make the decision for us. They're simply there once we decide, once we actually make that decision, they then can step in and kind of lead us and guide us along the way. But that actual kind of understanding of where you're going or what direction or how to take your gifts and how to take your truth and how to take your purpose to the next level comes from this intuitive connection, this intuition between you, your soul, and the divine. And so the way that shows up in people's lives is different for each person. And I would love to hear from you guys in the comments how that shows up for you. Like, how do you know that your intuition has spoken to you? How do you know? Like, what's the immediate thing? Is it a feeling? Is it a knowing? Or maybe it's like, I actually don't know. I actually don't know how my intuition speaks to me. Let me know in the comments where you're at with that. But that's the key thing that I want you to kind of reflect on right now is how does your intuition show up for you? Like when you think about it, every kind of big decision that you've made or big move that has felt intuitively guided, how did you know that it was your intuition? How did it show up for you? And like I said, it makes itself known in different ways. And it comes through in many different ways for different people. So there's no right or wrong when it comes to this, but it's about one of the key things as you're growing on your path is for you to begin to become aware and become familiar with how that is for you. Um, Let me see. I see faces of people that passed. Oh my gosh, I love that. Visualizations that come to me, knowledge or mantras or sentences that ease my nervous system, intuition. I love that, Jesse. It's a knowing and intimate voice I hear inside. Yes. I don't think I know. That's perfectly fine. You're in the right place because you're going to find out today. I'm going to share with you today how you can begin to know it or how you can begin to strengthen it. Just a knowing inner voice. Yes, I love that. I feel at peace once I follow through, but through the process, I'm always questioning it, but I feel that's my ego. Yeah, totally. And July, I love that you brought that up because I'm going to share a practice later on in actually a few moments where I feel like that's going to help you when you're in the process. So, yeah, not sure. That's totally fine. Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like sometimes, and what I found too is that sometimes it feels louder, like more obvious. Sometimes it's like, is that my intuition or like not? I don't know. There's certain experiences or situations where it feels clearer and other times where it doesn't. And as you guys can see, everyone has a different way of experiencing it. And so that's why it's like there's not this one formula that you can just follow and just be like, this is my intuition. It's about going through the process of discovering what it's like for you specifically. Violet Rose is saying, I'm an empath, so I would say feeling. However, I have been seeing spirit lately, and that is something I try to be observant of because it can feel overwhelming. Yeah, totally. I hear you. Because it's like now when you are seeing spirit, it's like that's a whole other extra energy now that you're kind of taking in. So yeah, definitely. And I would say for sure, you know, allowing yourself to process and ground after those kinds of experiences is going to be really important for you. But yeah, that's huge. That's huge. Yeah, I don't think I am ready to step into any big purpose yet if that is what I'm meant to. I don't feel that I'm connected to my intuition. Yeah, that's totally fine. That's totally fine. And you're going to be led, and where you are right now is exactly where you're meant to be. And I totally hear you on feeling like I'm not ready yet to step into any big purpose. And I would even say that where you are right now is part of your purpose in the sense of whatever you are developing and growing within yourself is supporting you to become whoever you're meant to be moving forward. Okay. My ego makes it feel like it's going to be bad, a lot of what ifs, but once I follow through, nothing happens, and that's the peace I feel, if that makes sense. Yeah, I totally hear you, July. It does make sense. So yes, I love this. And the other way that intuition can come through too, that I'll just share for anyone who maybe is watching on the replay or hasn't shared yet, but dreams is another way that intuition can speak to you. So speaking to you through dreams, through visions. I think people mention that through the feeling, through kind of like that inner knowing, and as well as through your desires. So when you have this feeling of just like wanting to do something, like you want to explore, or you want to do this thing, whether it's like just like a simple activity, like just a simple thing, like I recently discovered or rediscovered adult coloring books. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, this was amazing. I'm so glad that I was led to it. And the funny thing, the way that I was led to it was because my kids received this like coloring thing as a Christmas gift. And there was like a whole bunch of things. And so they were coloring, and I was like, oh, I'll just do it with them too. So we were all three of us just like coloring. And I was like, this is so much fun and like so peaceful. And then I thought, I need to get one for myself too. So I just like that night on Amazon, I was like, adult coloring books and coloring markers. And I was just like, I'm transformed. It's like such a amazing, peaceful tool that I had been doing that like years ago, like before kids, probably like, I don't even know, 7 years ago or something, maybe 6 years ago. But yeah, I haven't done it in years and somehow reconnected. And it was just like boom, boom, boom. It felt like I was being intuitively guided. Like my intuition was leading me to like just do it with my kids in that moment. And in that moment, I realized how enjoyable it was. And then immediately was like, I need to do this for myself. So I have my own set now. So that is just like for me. Not letting my kids use it because they'll destroy the markers. But it's one of those things where it can show up in little moments like that. It doesn't have to be only about like what's your bigger purpose, or what's the work that you're here to do, or like what's your bigger calling, like what's the impact you're here to create. Yes, it's part of it, but when we can also tune into our intuition in the little moments in our day-to-day lives, that's actually part of what helps us become familiar when the intuition is speaking to us when it comes to a bigger purpose, or a bigger divine plan, or a bigger vision that you are meant to steward and that you're meant to bring into the world. So it's also looking at it as these moments accumulate. They accumulate a sense of trust in ourselves, and they accumulate a sense of understanding and a connection and an awareness of how our intuition speaks to us, so that we can then like recognize it more quickly and easily, and then follow through. So that's one of the things to just keep in mind when it comes to how your intuition speaks to you, and understanding that it will happen in different ways, and it's all about your life practice essentially, you know. Um let me see. Just listening to you, I found clarity on how to listen to my intuition. Yay! I love it. That is my goal. I love that so much. I had a big knowing today happen. The message I will not step into fully until I fully, truly love myself. That is the key. That is the connection. Yes, Michelle, I love it. Jim is saying, I just seem to know things, or on a rare occasion get a vibe on what to do or not to do. Yes, yes, yes. That's exactly it. Just like seems to know, just seems to be like, just do that or don't do that. Yes, I totally hear you. Um, I love colors. I could imagine why that is enjoyable. Yeah, it's so enjoyable. Like if anyone's curious, I highly recommend. The hack that I found, that I realized that I didn't know back then, like years ago when I first was like doing adult coloring books, was using markers. Because coloring pencils, your hand gets tired, and I don't know, something about markers just feels so satisfying. It's like you're painting, but you're not painting. I don't know. It's just like amazing. It blew my mind. That was like the key thing that was different this time around. But anyways, that's the thing. It shows up in these different ways. And the thing too that I really love as a way to remember this is that your intuition, think of your intuition as a compass. It's a compass. So with a compass, you're not seeing the path. Like the compass isn't telling you. It's not like Google Maps where it's like you put the destination, you're like, okay, this is how I get there. Your intuition is more about this is where true north is. It's that way. I don't know what's on the path. I don't know if you might have to, the path might be blocked going straight. So you might have to take a turn and then go this way and go that way. We don't know yet. We're going to figure it out as we go. But can just tell you that true north is that way. So that's the way that you need to go. So that's how our intuition operates. It's not showing us the bigger picture. It's not showing us the whole plan. It's simply just showing us that way. That's the way that you need to go. And so a big key thing that we must develop within ourselves is trusting our intuition, to trust in it, to trust that the nudge that you feel or the thing, even if it doesn't make sense, even if you don't know why, even if it seems crazy, that if it's that way, then it's that way. So, having said that, what are some signs that maybe you're not quite listening to your intuition? Because it can come in very subtly where we're like not intentionally, obviously I don't think anyone here would intentionally not listen to their intuition, but sometimes we don't even realize that our intuition is trying to speak to us, and oftentimes it's more so because we are distracted by other things. So the voice of the intuition, your inner guidance, gets quieter, and you can't hear it or even notice that it's speaking to you because you're so focused on these other things, these outward distractions or blocks, but they're not really blocks, it's more distractions, that cause us to kind of not be able to hear the fact that our inner voice is saying something different. So here are the common things, okay? The first one is overthinking and doubt. So whenever you're overthinking a certain decision or certain situation like that, guidance to like do this, and you start to overthink it, or you feel like there's this nudge to go this way, but then you start to overthink it, or you're just simply overanalyzing and overthinking everything in your life, then you're too busy being up here instead of really tuning into down here into your heart space. So that's a key thing for you to just simply be aware of in your everyday life. And let me know in the comments. I'm really curious to hear if you guys notice within your own self the difference of when you're up in your head versus when you're more grounded and in your heart space. Like, can you tell? Let me know what that experience is like for you in the chat, because I'm really curious. And if you are wondering how to tell, then I can share that with you as well. But that's one of the things that can really distract us, is this sense of like just over analyzing, overthinking, being up in our heads, anxiety, fear, like Jesse's mentioning. Fear itself is the number one distraction. Yeah, exactly. And it's like any of those things cause us to overthink, causes us to doubt, causes us to be up in our heads. And the reason why is because those things, such as fear or the doubt or whatever, it poses as a threat to the ego. Like the ego sees it as a threat. And the ego then immediately is like, well, we need to start to logically think about it and see if this is the right move and analyze and overthink and blah, blah, blah. So it's just a natural defense mechanism that comes in to protect you from the threat, from the thing, to avoid getting hurt. That's essentially how it functions. So when you can create a sense of, I am safe, like I am safe here in this moment and I am safe in where I'm being led to go, then that can help to ease that overthinking and bring you back into your heart space and back into where you're being guided, versus trying to think of all the scenarios and all the different things and what if this happens, what if that happens, and just like over analyzing and overthinking. So that's a huge thing. Let me see. Okay. Yes. So how can you tell? So the way that you can tell if you're overthinking or overanalyzing, one is going to be to notice your level of anxiety or your level of mind chatter. So if you're noticing that you're up in your head and you're like, there's like a thoughts going a million miles a minute, it feels like, and it's just like feels like you're bouncing, like the voice, like things are just bouncing off in your head, like you're thinking about this and you're thinking about that, and then what if this happens? And the other part of it is it feels very emotional. So you feel very emotional, like you're thinking about this situation. Oh my God, I can't believe that person did this. And what if this happens? And I don't know about this. And there's this emotional roller coaster that's happening in your head. That would be the number one way to know that you are overthinking or that you're overanalyzing and that you're in the space of like in your head. The other thing that you can do is tuning into yourself energetically. So a really simple practice is that for you to just kind of sit in a quiet space and begin to tune into your breath and just tune into your breathing and then notice where your mind is, because if when you start to intentionally be present and be in a more calm state, if you are already in an overthinking kind of space, then your mind will start to get really loud and your mind will definitely start to be like, oh, this is a dumb practice. Oh, why am I doing this? Okay, I should be doing that. What am I going to eat for dinner? Blah, blah, blah. Like it'll just start to think about all these different random things. And then that's another way to see, like, okay, I'm really up in my head. I'm really up here. And so then when you notice that, what you can do is just intentionally with your breath. I find that your breath is such a great, amazing tool to, with your breath, bring your focus down into your heart. And then keep doing that. Repeat it over and over and over again. And then once you kind of feel yourself coming lower, then ground yourself. So bring the energy even lower down through the lower part of your body. And then as though you're pushing it into the earth, basically. And so then once you do that, it kind of helps to center you and ground you and can help to calm your thoughts. Now, the other thing to know about this is that it is a practice. So, like, especially if like I see Ashley saying I'm a Virgo and a New Yorker, overthinking is in my DNA. So, yeah, I totally hear you. And it's like if it feels like you are just born like that, then it'll definitely be a practice. Like, it's not just going to go away overnight or after doing it one time. It's about understanding that as you practice and as you make space for yourself to be present, you will learn to bring yourself into a more grounded space and to move out of overthinking and down into your body, into your heart. Okay. Let me see. Violet's saying, literally every time I'm in my head, it is some form of fear. Yeah, 1,000%. I hear you. I'm really enjoying being honest with myself when I know that it's fear and that it isn't how I want to feel. Yes, it's so huge. I love that. I love that so much. God works in wonderful ways. I absolutely agree. When I am in my mind attitude, I cannot stop thinking for something happening. When I'm in my heart, I feel peace and harmony. Yes, 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 yes. Annie, I love that. If we're able to talk to our higher self, how come with the ego, it seems like it doesn't want to listen? Oh, that's a really great question, Michelle. And what I would say to that is instead of talking to your ego, I would flip it and listen to what your ego has to say, but not in a way where you're like doing what it says, but more so making space for your ego to be heard. Because oftentimes, what the ego really wants, in order for it to cool off and take a back seat and allow your higher self to take over, is your ego just wants to be heard. Your ego is just like, I'm freaking out over here and I don't like this and I'm afraid of all these things happening. So, and then once we're able to understand where the ego is coming from and what it's feeling, then we can actually work to give it what it needs to help it feel safe. So if your ego is like feeling a certain way or like, saying things and you're trying to be like, "No, don't say that," or like, "It's okay," but you haven't actually heard it. Like, what do you actually need, ego? Like, what are you actually afraid of? Why do you feel this way? What is making you upset about this? Or whatever the situation is. And the ego like shares with you, like, I'm actually afraid of being rejected, or I'm actually really afraid of failing, or whatever the thing is. Then you can start to use tools to help show the ego that it's actually safe. So if it's afraid of failure, then maybe you can begin to show the ego examples of times when you didn't fail and times when you took a risk and it was worth it, and like whatever things like that, where you can show the ego examples of it's okay, we're safe. And then from there, your higher self can really like come in and lead you and guide you in a way where the ego's not fighting it so much anymore. You know what I mean? So I hope that helps. Let me see. I don't use to feel if I'm in my heart, so I guess I'm in my head most of the time. Yeah, totally. And then sometimes it just feels like our normal because that's just what we're used to. So, for anyone who feels that way or anyone who has felt like they aren't really even sure if they're up in their head or like how can you tell, then or you just know that you're always in your head, then do the breathing exercise that I talked about and like notice and then bring the energy down and allow yourself to ground into you, which will then bring you back down into the present moment versus like up here in your head. Okay. Okay. So we talked about overthinking and doubt. Yeah, you're welcome, Michelle. The other thing is another block to our intuition is when we feel resistant to making decisions. So I used to really identify. Sometimes it still comes up. Like a thing for Libras. I don't know if anyone else identifies with this, but one of the things that it always says for Libras and many horoscope things is indecisive. And like I would very often be indecisive. Like growing up, I remember it was like always a thing like I don't know what decision to make. And so it was always a thing like, oh, I'm a Libra, I'm indecisive, you know? And I feel like on some level it's okay, but like when it comes to making big decisions or like really allowing yourself to go for what you desire or what you're being called towards, but then having that indecision that's like, I don't want to fully commit to that decision because what if I make a mistake? Or what if I'm not cut out for this? Or what if I'm not capable? Or what if blah, 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 like all this mind chatter that can come up. But that resistance to making decisions, or if you know that you're just procrastinating on making a decision around something or moving forward with a certain thing, like all of that is resistance that is showing you that you're not fully trusting in your intuition or you're not fully trusting in yourself. So if you are yeah, team Libra and I'm the worst. Yeah, I hear you. So it's like one hand, it's like one of those like okay, it's like you take it as, well, that's just who I am. But over time, I've learned that the most important things, and I'm still always learning and growing, of course. There's moments where I still have a hard time making a decision, but when it matters most, it's like I will make the decision. And sometimes when it comes to your following your calling and pursuing that path, you have to decide. You have to decide that that's what you're going to do. And I really truly think that that's one of the biggest reasons why my time from the moment that I decided or stepped into the my calling as a healer and as a spiritual teacher, which was at the beginning of 2017, like January 2017, like we're coming up on what 8-year anniversary that I officially started this business. From that moment until I quit my corporate job because I was still working obviously like full time and just like in the corporate world as a scientist, like toxicologist, like completely different world. It was 10 months from the time that I started to the time that I quit my job and went into this full time. So I've been doing this full time for almost it's going to be 8 years at the end of this year in November. And so I feel like one of the reasons why, like in the bigger picture, that's not a long time. But when I was in it, I was like, why is it taking so long? So and I feel like the reason why is because I decided that that's what I was going to do. I decided that this was going to be my life's work. I decided that this is what, like, there's no other option. Like, I'm not going to be working for someone else. Like, I just knew and I had decided that. And I feel like one of the biggest things when it comes to pursuing our path that's so important is to be able to make decisions and decisions based off of our intuition, of course. And so that was a huge thing that I feel really contributed to that. And so I would invite you to look at where maybe have you been in a space of indecision? Where have you been in a space of, not fully like committing to something when you know that it's time to fully commit and just allowing yourself to decide that this is who you are or that this is the path that you're going to take or that this is who you're becoming And it doesn't mean that you have to go quit your job tomorrow. I didn't quit my job right away when I decided, but I decided that this was going to work and that I was going to make it work and I would figure it out, and there was like no other option. So that's one thing. That's a key thing here. And then finally, the last block that I want to highlight here, or distraction, I should say, is when we are so overly concerned with other people's opinions or societal expectations. So when we do things just because we think that we should, because that's what everyone else is doing, because that's what people expect of you, because that's what you asked your mom about or whatever. And like, that's what they said, or, whatever kind of situation. But when we are just overly concerned about other people's opinions, we're influenced by other people's opinions, what they think, how they're judging us, and or society as a whole, and what society expects of you, then it can also be really hard for us to actually truly listen to ourselves and to listen to what our intuition is leading us to do, even if it doesn't make sense for a lot of people. Like, a lot of things that I've done in my life since I started my spiritual journey is like, does not make sense. It doesn't make sense to a lot of people, and people are like, what, like, how are you doing that, or how's that possible, or how did you decide this? And it's just like, I don't know, just intuition. And I'm trusting myself, and I feel good and confident in my decision. I don't need to explain myself to you. It's just like, that's what I decided to do and that's what I'm doing. And so when we can release and remove that influence of other people, it's not to say that you don't value other people's opinions or feedback or whatever, but it's more so around, it's like that distinction between, what do you think I should do, versus, this is what I'm doing and that's it, or do you have any feedback for me in terms of what I'm doing? So that's a really distinct thing. Okay, let me see what you guys are saying here, and let me know which of these, if you find that any of these ones that I just listed is something that you're either struggling with, or that you've noticed within yourself, that you like have had that be a thing for you, that you've worked through. Let me know. Okay, let me see. Aisha saying Libra. Yes, go Libras. um, the universe is a mental plane. What you decide mentally is what you create. Yes. Monica saying, is something like muscle testing also considered intuition or reactions from your body? That's a really great question. I feel like yes, it is. And I know if anyone here is familiar with muscle testing, then let me know, and you want to chime in, feel free to post that in the comments. But I do feel, I've never personally really done muscle testing, but from what I understand of it and what I've heard from other people around it, it does feel like it's intuition that is communicating to you through your body, because your body, and you'll see that I share this later on, that your body is one of the ways that you can tune in and begin to become familiar with your intuition. So yeah, to me, muscle testing feels like, yes, you can consider it as intuition. Okay, when you know who you are and what your values are, you are no longer pushed or pulled around. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. 1,000%. Okay, so here are the two main things that you need to know with regards to what I just shared, and just moving through anything where it feels a little bit sticky, feels a little bit stuck, feels a little bit like, okay, how do I overcome this and like really deepen in my intuitive connection? And the first thing is, I want you to imagine like any of these moments, like where our ego is super loud, or where we feel, caught up in other people's opinions, where we feel resistant to making decisions, whatever the thing is for you that you find yourself in, imagine it as simply a layer. So it's not part of you, it's not within yourself and who you are. It's just simply a layer of energy that you are currently in and you're currently experiencing. So if you feel indecisive about something, instead of it being an internal, like, I'm indecisive, it's more of like an external layer that's here right now, that you get to remove that layer of energy in order to more clearly tune in to yourself. If you feel like you feel paralyzed because you're afraid of what other people are going to think or say about whatever you're wanting to do, and that's what's holding you back from stepping more fully into your calling, then imagine that fear of other people's opinions as a layer of energy that you can release and that you can remove to then be able to more clearly hear your intuition, to be more fully connected on a spiritual level, so that you can feel confident in moving forward or speaking your truth or whatever the case is. So that's a really simple practice for you that I wanted to share with you today as a way to support you in being able to begin to deepen in your intuitive connection. And this is something that we're going to go more in depth in inside of the workshop that I have coming up, that I'll share a little bit more about it at the end. On day 2, we're going to go really deep in terms of connecting with your inner voice, like that inner guidance system. Now, the other thing that's important is that you must become familiar with what your inner voice sounds like. And we kind of already touched on this. I asked you guys, what does your intuition feel like to you? And continuing to deepen into that and continue to familiarize yourself with how your intuition is speaking to you, how you sense guidance coming in, how you sense that inner voice, or just in general, that compass. If you think of it as a compass, how does my compass speak to me? How does my compass tell me if this is the right direction? And like we've already touched on as well, body is one of the ways. That's in fact one of the ways that I was going to share with you guys, is it's through your body. Another way that you can connect and tune into your intuition is through your higher self, like practicing your higher self connection, practicing connecting to the divine. So like I said at the beginning, whether it's God or source or creator or universe or whatever it is for you, but being able to tune into that presence and having a practice where you're tuning in to the divine, you're tuning into God, you're tuning into your higher self to really be in the presence. A really simple way to start is really just calling upon that energy. You can also call on Archangel Uriel. He is amazing at supporting you with holding space around you so that you can more clearly connect to your higher self. So, if you want to call on Archangel Uriel to support you, you can. He will come in and literally surround you in an energy of light so that you can then more clearly feel the presence of your higher self. But essentially, what you're doing is you're calling upon that energy of your soul, of your higher self, and you're feeling it come in. Sometimes it feels like it comes from within, it kind of like expands out. Sometimes it feels like it drops in from above. So regardless of how that is for you, it's about calling on that connection and calling on it. And I've noticed that it's really interesting. Like my personal experience with this is that even though it's like I'm showing up in life like with the intention to, be my true self and express my truth and all of those things, if I don't intentionally do this connection with the divine and with myself, I find that over time, it still feels a little bit disconnected. So it doesn't matter what kind of work you do or what phase of life you're in. It's important to be intentionally connecting with this energy, no matter what. And so that's one way that you can do that. I do have a higher self meditation on YouTube that I did a few years ago, maybe 5 years ago. I don't remember, but it's right on YouTube. So you can watch it here on my channel, just search it. And you can do that here. I also have a newly recorded higher self meditation that you can receive as a free download when you join the Soul Clarity Workshop. So I'll share more about that in a second, but that's just one example of resources that can support you. The other thing is journaling with your higher self and journaling with the divine. So for me, there's 2 ways that I do this. One is that I first of all journal as though I'm like writing a letter to God. So I'm like literally say, "Dear God, like this is what's going on and this is how I'm feeling and this is all the things that I want, like opening up my heart to you." It's basically prayer in the form of journaling, and like I'm opening up my heart to you and this is all the things, and please show me the way and reveal to me what my next steps are and what I need to know and whatever, that kind of a thing. And then the other side of it is also asking myself, calling upon my higher self energy to come in and saying, what is the truth that I need to know today? Or what is the truth that I'm meant to express today? And the reason why asking what you're meant to express is so powerful is because your purpose, if you think about your purpose, it's like it's the reason why you're here. And the reason why any of us are here is because your soul is meant to express itself. Like at the very core of it, the very basics of it, if you were to just like boil it down to the basics, our souls are here to be fully self expressed. And so, if your soul is here to be self expressed, what does that look like? What does that mean to you? It means something different for every person. So, what does it mean to you to be self expressed? And maybe that's a journaling question that you write down and you think about that and you really sit with that. You meditate on it and you see what comes up for you. What does it mean to you to be self expressed? Does it mean that you are speaking and teaching and like you're in this like actual vocal expression? Or does expression to you mean that you are behind a canvas and you're painting and like your soul is expressing itself that way? Because everyone has different ways of expressing themselves. And those are just two examples. There's so many in between all of that. But that's the key thing that I want you to start to think about is on a bigger level, how is my soul here to be self-expressed? What does that look like? But then on a day-to-day is how does my soul desire to express itself today? And it doesn't mean that you have to like, it doesn't mean that everyone's required to go on Instagram live or YouTube live or whatever. And like, this is my soul expressing itself or whatever. It's not necessarily that. It simply means, how are you showing up today? So if you like are journaling on this and you feel what you feel coming in is what my soul desires to express today is peace. My soul desires to express peace. Then you can start to think about, okay, well, what do I have going on today? Is it a crazy day? Is it a hectic day? Like, what do I have going on? And then let's say you have a crazy day ahead of you. You have back-to-back meetings, you have like your kid is going to soccer practice, this is happening, that's happening, like you have a million things going on and you're like, that's not a peaceful day. Like, how am I supposed to do that? It's not about what outwardly you're going to experience that's going to bring you peace. It's about how you show up in your expression of your truth that brings peace. So now you're not relying on an external environment to give you what you already internally are, because part of your purpose is to just be who you already are on a soul level. So if on a soul level, your soul is like, I want to express peace, I want to just be an expression of peace today, then your job is to look at and understand and be present. And in all the meetings and all the back to back and all the things that go, you're tuned into yourself and you're like, I'm here. I'm showing up as peace. I'm showing up as peace today. And God, angels, universe, please help me show up as peace today. That's where now the angels come in and they can help you, because that's what I was saying at the beginning. The angels aren't telling you what to do. They're not telling you like, this is your purpose and this is your path and all the things. They're helping you with what you figure out and discover within yourself. And they can't do that for you because otherwise they'd be taking your power away. And the angels are never going to take your power away. So it's empowering to actually be in a state of constant self-discovery and a constant self-remembrance, because that's the only way that you actually embody it. Because it's the same thing if you told someone over and over again, like, you need to quit smoking, it's bad for you, quit smoking, but they don't actually feel it internally, then maybe they'll quit because you are nagging them and telling them to do it, but they're not actually going to experience long lasting change until it comes internally from within. And so that's why understanding your purpose and who you truly are sometimes can feel like such a struggling path, because the answer isn't just coming like this. But the thing is that when you begin to work in this way where you're working with yourself and you're trusting in yourself and you're making all the small moves and changes and things that you need to do all along the way, even if you don't know why, even if you don't know the bigger picture, but you're just still doing it, it's going to lead you to where you need to go. It's going to absolutely lead you to your bigger calling. I can guarantee that. But we first have to follow the breadcrumbs and trust in the breadcrumbs and take those small steps. Okay. So, so I don't even know how that spiel started, but whatever that message was, I feel like someone needed to hear it and it had to come through. So, thank you for coming to my TED Talk. I'm just kidding. But anyways, so that's another way is coming in that deep connection with your higher self and asking your higher self how does it desire to express itself on a day-to-day basis, and then asking the angels, asking yourself, okay, help me to show up in this way, help me to be an expression of this energy, an expression of this. Sometimes for some of you, especially if you do have a business or you are growing a brand or whatever, then yeah, maybe the expression part, that piece will be related to, okay, I'm actually meant to show up on a live stream and talk about this thing. Like that could be a part of it. I know for sure 1,000% can tell you that this whole theme that I'm talking about this month around soul purpose, around following your path, around your soul's calling, that is not my brain that figured out like we should talk about this. Like that is coming from my soul that was like, I want to express this energy around supporting all of you who are here, supporting you on your journey of following your soul's calling. Like I knew since like probably November. I was like, January is soul purpose. Like I just can feel that is what needs to be talked about. So obviously in my context, I do have an online business. Part of my job is to express literally online. And so sometimes when I'm like, what does my soul desire to express today? It is related to in the context of my work. But other times it's not. It's not always related to the context of your work. And that's the thing too, is that your purpose is more than just the work that you do. Like, I know that a lot of people are in a journey or in a space of life, like asking, okay, I want to leave this career. I want to move on to something else. I want to make a bigger impact. I want to serve in a bigger way. And they view that as their purpose, and it is. But also keep in mind that your purpose is more than that. Your purpose is how you show up in your everyday life. So it's how you show up in the work that you're in right now, in the job that you're going to today, even if it doesn't feel like your life's calling. And so that's an important distinction to make as well. And the other thing too is that the more that you show up just simply in who your soul is wanting to be, that's actually the biggest hack to going from this corporate job to this full-time business, if that's the case for you. I know that that's not the path for everybody, but if you are on that journey, like that's the quickest way. So when you are going into the office, like one of the things that I used to do when I was in the office and I was in that corporate job is I would pray and I would bring in the energy of the angels and I would imagine I would visualize the whole office, like from the whole pathway from me walking into the building to taking the elevator to getting up to the floor where my office was, and like the whole hallways and everyone around me. I would imagine the whole thing with white light. And as I was there, I'd be like tuning into the angels and I would still be kind of like with them and I would call on them to support me, even though like in meetings or when I had to do big presentations in front of like hundreds of people, I was calling on the angels to support me. And so I was still being who I was meant to become and utilizing that as a tool, and knowing, like I said before, like having that decision that what I'm working on here over here on the side is who I'm meant to be. So it's incorporating who you are in all aspects of your life, not just in this one area. Okay. And then lastly, like I already kind of mentioned, it's tuning into your body. Your body is one of the best ways to become familiar with how your intuition speaks to you, how the divine speaks to you. And so the most basic kind of distinction is looking at when I'm tuning in to, let's say, make a decision or to pursue something, does that feel expansive in my body? Like when I tune in, does it feel like my heart's opening? Does it feel expansive? Or does it feel contracting? Do I feel like I want to like squeeze everything in and kind of contract and go within? Like which one is it? How do you feel? So that's a simple basic way that I will tune in. Sometimes especially if it's like there's a block in like my thinking or like there's just like this sense of like I don't know, I can't like feel or hear or think of the answer, then my body will tell me. Okay, let me see what you guys are saying. Do you have any questions? Let me know. Let's see. It's like dusting yourself off or brushing off spider webs. Yes. I've been driving for over 20 years and I could/can always feel when I'm driving in the wrong direction, but I never notice a feeling if I'm going in the right direction. Oh, that's so interesting, Ashley. I love that. And sometimes, that could be a thing too, where you feel the thing when it's like, don't go that way. And so if you know that you have the feeling when you're driving in the wrong direction, then you can still trust that if that feeling is not showing up, then you know that you're in the right direction. So that's interesting. I love that. Hello to everyone who's joining. Or in other words, we are not puppets on strings. It has to be our choice. We improve more that way. Yes, exactly, Jim. That's exactly it. So I would love to hear from you guys in the comments. Let me know if there's anything that comes up for you, like thinking about your own journey when you have used your intuition to make a big decision or make a big move and it paid off. It In the end, you're like, oh yeah, that was like, I'm so glad that I did that. Or how you knew that you were being called to move in a certain direction. I know that for me, one of my biggest things that I think back when I think back to my journey and I'm like, how, like, sometimes when I'm talking about these things, I reflect back on my own thing and thinking, how did intuition show up for me and how did I know? And I feel like one of the biggest decisions for me that has infinitely paid off and like just has always now made sense, but in the moment did not make sense, was when I decided to move to San Diego from Canada. Like that was a big decision and a big move, and it didn't make sense to anyone. Everyone was like, "You're crazy. Like how? Why? Like why are you going there?" And I didn't know anyone, and I literally packed 3 suitcases and I was like, "This is where I'm going." And I remember even then, like I somehow intuitively knew California was always calling my name. Like I was like, I'm always going to California, but I didn't know where exactly in the moment at that time when I was still deciding. But I was looking at 3 main things. It was like San Francisco, LA, or San Diego. I don't know why. Like those were the 3 major places that I was kind of like considering. And it immediately was like, no, no, yes. Like I just knew that San Diego. And I feel like ever since I made that transition, even though I had people asking, like, what is it about San Diego? Like, how are you going to figure it out? How are you going to meet people? What are you going to do? How are you going to do all these things? And it was like, honestly, I didn't know in the time. It was just like, I don't know, I'll figure it out. I don't know, I'll figure it out. But the key thing that I knew for sure was that I felt so anchored in the truth and in the knowing that that's where I was meant to go. And since then, it's just like feels like my life has just exponentially grown in the sense of meeting my husband, having our kids, like growing my business, just being in a space where I feel so much more full of vitality and life and just feeling like environmentally like that's just where I'm meant to be, like where it feels at home for me. And so, things like that, like decisions like that, or trusting in yourself, like I was saying before, an example of people who are wanting to maybe grow their businesses and deciding like when is the right move for me to leave corporate so that I can step into my business. Like all of those things, like those big decisions, the only person who's truly going to know is you. Like you're the only one who can know those things. And so it's so important to trust that whatever those decisions are, even if they feel unrelated to your bigger life's work, to trust that even if you're being placed in different environments or different situations, that it's all to enable you to flourish and enable you to expand and enable you to grow. So trust in all of those nudges, not just the ones that are specifically related to your work, but also just life in general, because you never know where you're being called or where you're being led to, like what is on the other side of that. You just know that that's the door that you're being called to walk through, even if you can't see what's on the other side of the door. So that I feel is one of the most important things that I've learned throughout my journey, and that has really supported me in the growth of my path and really just trusting myself. Is intuition your higher self? I would say that it's a way in which your higher self communicates with you. So intuition is the connection. To me, for me personally, like my definition of intuition is a connection between like what my soul is bringing to me as well as what the divine is bringing. So to me that's God. For some people it's source or creator or whatever, universe, like that to me is intuition. Is that direct connection. And then receiving messages or guidance from angels, for example, I to me it comes through differently. That's what I would call more like through your clairs or through other means that you're aware, like sometimes it's signs or whatever the thing is, or if you work with oracle cards, um that's how they can communicate. But to me intuition is really more like the internal guidance system, the inner knowing. That really is, to me, it's that relationship between you and the divine, because the divine is the one that has the bigger plan for you, the one that created you. And so the divine is the one that is speaking to you through that part within you. Yay. Okay. You're welcome. Um, Jesse, thank you. Okay. So having said all of this, I want to invite you to come join me for a 3-day workshop that is happening next week. It is happening January 8th through the 10th. So that's Wednesday through Friday next week. It's called the Soul Clarity Workshop. And I've shared a little bit about throughout this, and through this live stream, that I'm having this workshop, that it's related to soul purpose. And as the name says, soul clarity is really about bringing you into a deeper state of clarity and connection, not just with your soul and your higher self, but really with your calling, and helping you to identify with clarity and with confidence what your next steps are, and actually start taking those next steps towards your expansion, towards your growth, towards who you're here to be. So this is for the people who are on this path, who are, like I was saying before, identify with, I know I have these gifts. I know that I have this connection. I know that I have this calling. I'm here to be of service, but how do I actually put this into play? Or how do I expand to the next level? I feel stuck. I feel like something is there, but I'm not quite sure what. So this is going to help you to discover what that next thing is. And if you're on a journey where you're just simply like, I'm just still trying to discover who I am and what I'm here to do, this workshop is going to meet you there. So it's my work, honestly. What I've noticed over the years is that it always meets you where you're at. It meets you with where you're at. And that's really helpful, because as you kind of implement the tools and the knowledge that I share with you, it's going to transform you. And then when you revisit it again, it transforms you again. It's just like kind of like this, and to me is that's the angels. Like that's the angels doing their thing. Everything that I share, everything that I do is always based on their guidance, their support, my personal experiences as well. But it's just this combination of knowledge and information that supports you in the way that you need it and what you need to receive when you need it. And so in this workshop, we're going to be talking about discovery of your calling, of your next step. We're going to be talking about your inner guidance system and how to deepen in that connection. And we're going to be talking about the next steps and how to actually start moving forward and creating momentum on your journey, which is so beautiful and perfect, I feel like, with the month of January and just the theme of the month. And just being at the beginning of a new year. Like, who doesn't want to have that clarity when it comes to the year ahead? And so I really want to support you through that process. Now, the other thing that I have happening right now is a special early bird bonus, where when you join, which technically today is the last day, but you may or may not see that there's an extension. Like, maybe I'll extend it till tomorrow because I know some people are watching the replay. So maybe it'll still be there until January 4th, but that is the absolute last day, where when you join, you'll also receive 2 special bonuses. The first one is a higher self guided meditation. It's an audio download. It also includes some journaling prompts to really support you in beginning to deepen that connection with yourself. And then the other bonus is the Soul Clarity card spread that I created. It's a 5-card spread. It's a whole PDF that you receive, and it literally walks you through how to pull cards to answer questions based on this spread. So it's really cool. You can use any card deck that you have or that you really love, or you can use the Archangel Oracle card deck if you have that, but it's really up to you. It's applicable with any card deck. The feedback that I've received on that spread is like amazing. I love it so much. People are like, this is so good and just really empowering. And so those two bonuses, obviously, you can implement right away and begin to deepen in your practice, getting ready for the workshop next week. The other thing to know is that the workshop, I'm teaching it live, but of course there are replays that will be available, as I know that time zones and all those things don't really work all the time for people, which is fine. You have the replay, and you're also going to have lifetime access to the workshop. The workshop is being held inside of Mighty Network. So if you're already inside of Mighty Networks, maybe you're inside of my free Divine Pathfinders community, or maybe you're inside the Angels Guild, and so it's in that same Mighty Networks. It's its own space that you join. And so there's a community aspect to it. There's going to be, places for you to share, for you to comment, for you to ask your questions. So even if you're watching on the replay, you can still participate, still ask questions, still receive guidance as though you were on live with us. So I'm really excited. It's available now. I put the link in the chat, and I'll have it below in the description below this video. So if you're watching me on the replay, you can just come join through the link there. Or for those of you live, check it out in the link in the chat. Otherwise, I think that's it. Let me know if you have any last questions as we are still here. Hello, Thomas. Happy New Year to you as well. But thank you all for joining me today, for asking your questions along through this workshop, for sharing your insights. If you're watching me on the replay and you do have anything that you want to share, feel free to post that in the comments below. But otherwise, I can't wait. For those of you who are in for the workshop, I can't wait to see you there. And I'll see you all soon here. I'm trying to think. I can't remember when I have a next live stream plan, but they're coming. They're so much fun to do. So we'll definitely see each other again very, very soon. I'm sending you so much love. Happy Friday. Enjoy your weekend, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.